Hello! Today we'll be looking at this fairly unassuming box from RunCam, but just before we get into that, a quick reminder to please like or dislike this video if you don't like it, comment down below, don't forget to subscribe, and if you can find that little bell icon, click on it and it'll tell you when I'm uploading videos. So, in this box is the RunCam Phoenix 2 Nano, which is, as you might expect, a little nano camera from RunCam. It's got an M8 2.1mm lens and it's based around, it says, the same optics as the big Phoenix 2, and it says it's got excellent low light. Hard to see from here, although there's not much in there, but we'll go to close up, we'll unpack it, and then we'll get it in a quad, because obviously we want to fly it, and then we want to test its low light performance, and we want to see overall how it does. So let's go to close up and see exactly what's in here. Okay, so let's have a closer look at what's in the little box here, and mostly some packaging stuff. I've got the actual camera here. Really doesn't want to focus very well, but you can see there we've got the normal 5 to 36 volts ground, video, and then another ground and menu for the OSD type stuff with a single plug there. Would have really liked the 1.8mm lens on this one, which is an option, but this is the 2.1mm. Also in here we have, oh, this is different. Normally these are sort of hard plastic. This is a squidgy thing where you can obviously place the camera inside to make it easier to mount on different size of mount points. We've got a cable here which does both things at once. Normally you might see just the cable for the camera and the voltage. This is the menu thing as well, although what it doesn't have is anything to plug this into, so it doesn't have the OSD board, it doesn't have the plug for that, and depending on the type of quad you're putting it on, you can leave this flying about so you can then plug it in with something, or you can take it off. Again, although, you know, lots of people have multiple cameras and will have an OSD board, when they sort of supply this so you can set it up but they don't give anything to set it up with, it seems a bit weird. Finally, you've got a bunch of screws for installing to a mount. You don't have an actual standing mount to put this on, so you have to rely on the fact that you've got something on your quad, either plates that fix either side or something else to do it. Anyway, let's pick a quad to mount this on and get on with it. I haven't decided on what it's going to be yet, so I'll have a little think about that and then we'll decide what we'll do. I'll also see if I've got some sort of plug that will plug into this. I think I probably have from other cameras and stuff, because obviously it'd be interesting to see what's in the OSD there and what options we've got. Okay, so here's what I mounted it in. This is the little Lao 3, a quad I tested out not long ago and I didn't particularly like, mostly because it came with a broken VTX and the camera was rubbish. It was the Turtle V2, so good opportunity to change the camera here. I've stuck the RunCam in there. Fits in with the hardware it was given. I've added, obviously it didn't come with an OSD board, I've added one in there, so I've got a little thing which I need to tuck out the way after, but I wanted to go through the OSD, see if there's anything interesting on there. So we'll take Pickle Rick as our target, we'll sit him there and we'll see what we can do through the OSD. Props are on, but I'm connected to a transmitter and I know this quad, so it's not going to go off funny and do stuff. Okay, so we're looking through the RunCam now, and I'm just going to go into the menu, see what's there. Pretty much the same menu as everything. Auto exposure is set, white balance is set to auto, day night I've set to colour, image enhance, everything is auto at the moment. Video settings, I have done some stuff here. I've set this to PAL, so I've moved my OSD down a bit, and I've put the image ratio to 16:9 because I've got 16:9 goggles. Dynamic range is open, else it goes like that, and that's about it really. So I'm going to save and exit that, and then we're going to take this camera out for a fly once I've got rid of this cable. What an absolutely gorgeous day. You probably can't tell here because I'm sat in the shade, but if we look that way there's just no clouds, the sun's out, it's lovely and warm. The only downside is every single biting insect seems to fall on the WhatsApp group and they report that I'm sat here and you can bite me. But anyway, let's get this little RunCam camera out on the Lao 3 and see how it performs, shall we? So you'll have to forgive me the indulgence of doing a couple of external angles on the little quad, because when I reviewed the Lao 3 I really didn't like it. That's because of the camera.
could tell it was flying smoothly, and it seemed to be quite a good quad, but I just couldn't see where I was going well enough because of the Turtle V2. But having put a proper camera on this one, I have to say it's quite transformed. I can see where I'm going now, and it's much better. But let's have a look at this picture in a bit more detail and look at it in a really critical way. Obviously it's massively improved, so I'm quite happy, but coming back and looking at the DVR footage, we've got a little bit of noise there. We get a little bit of, I notice, a sort of flashing sort of bars in the sky and something similar in the grass. That said, it seems to be way up there in terms of the quality you can expect from cameras, and I have to say I'm pretty happy with it. I can see where I'm going. It handles the light very well. I'm fairly happy. You can see here I'm going into shade, and it picks that up very quickly, and again I'm happy that I can see where I'm going very exactly. It's always brilliant if I can go out on a dim day as well and show you how it looks. But I have to take the weather I'm given, and this day was absolutely gorgeous. So I had no problems at all going out and flying on this day. It was just a fantastic day for flying. Really fun. I'm just trying to get as much shade as I could through funny angles, and aside from the fact that the VTX didn't stand up very well there, not a problem. I'm really liking this because I can actually see stuff, and I can sort of get under branches and just having a great old time. This is a Cmos sensor, so I was able to get a little bit of jello into it by powering up quite high and getting some vibrations in there. We're just getting a little bit of flicker over that distant ground there, but you know, it's not too bad. It's quite handleable in terms of flying, and it's not putting me off at all. I have to say as well, it seemed to be a better picture in the goggles than it is in the DVR recording. It's very interesting. Sometimes I can say everything looked rubbish, but I look back at the DVR and it looks great. In this occasion, as far as I was concerned, I wasn't really seeing any of those sort of the slight light flickers and noise that we're seeing in the DVR. I don't remember seeing that in the goggles, and it could just be that, you know, my mind was concentrated on one thing and I just didn't see it, or it could be that it really didn't show up on the goggles. On that Turtle V2, I could barely see this whatever it is, a barn, a hay store, whatever. But I can see it a lot better in this camera, even when the sun's sort of in the wrong angle. Obviously it's a lot clearer from this angle. When we go the other angle, it's got some shade there, but it's still easily seeable, and yeah, working really nicely. So overall, super happy so far with this camera. The only thing I do is prefer to get the 1.8mm lens, because when I'm angling this up to get some speed, it's quite a difficult landing, so I can't see the ground in front of me that well. But let's have a look now and see how it copes at night.
Hello, I'm out here and it's dusk. It's not actually as light as it looks in my phone, but it's not as dark as when I normally go out. Sometimes I do this in pitch black and it absolutely gets slightly ridiculous, but this is more the sort of time you'll be maybe flying. It is low light, even though the camera is kind of making the sky look blue. It's 10 o'clock because it's June 23rd or something. But anyway, let's get this little Nano RunCam Phoenix 2 and see how it does in this lighting conditions. You can see we've got the street lights are sort of lit up, and that when we get the street light, you can see sort of the sun's gone down. So let's check it out.
And look at that, you really can't tell it's dusk at all. It's really lighting up a lot, and I have to say, to naked eye it looked a lot darker, but to the camera it looks really good. In black and white, I wasn't as convinced. It looked a little bit smeary. It didn't look as good. I don't use black and white, but I wanted to show it because I know a lot of people prefer that for flying at night. For me, I'd always prefer colour just to get a little bit extra detail out of it. You can see there's a little bit more noise where it's trying to get some of those details that really aren't there. But yeah, this is great. In terms of flying at dusk, you really won't recognise the fact it's dusk.
Okay, the little RunCam, which you can't see, did so well in dusk that I've come out and much darker. You can see it's not quite completely dark yet, but yeah, it's pretty hard to see anything through the phone. The naked eye is slightly better. Let's see how this little camera does.
So what the camera tends to pick up on is the light that's there and amplifies it very well. And what we basically see is that street light above me, which really doesn't look like it's putting any light out in my garden, seems to work like a floodlight. I've got to the really dark bit because I wanted to see how this again would work in black and white mode, and once again I'm not liking this. The detail is completely lost and it seems a lot smearier. Where it's got light, it seems alright, but I still prefer colour. People who fly in black and white will really have to explain why they like that. But yeah, if we go to colour, it's just it's ridiculously bright. It's far brighter than I can see with my naked eye. Basically, I can walk around with my goggles on my head, just holding my quad out in front. Whereas if I was walking without the goggles on, I wouldn't be able to see stuff, like my cat here, who's come for a stroke. Yeah, impressive light performance in darkness. I wouldn't say it's a night camera, but if you're going from dusk to where it's sort of getting a little bit dark, you really won't have a problem with this one.
Well, there you go. This was the little RunCam Phoenix 2 Nano, and pretty impressive in my opinion. What was really nice about it is RunCam cameras are often pretty expensive because they believe they're an impressive brand and they're RunCam. This one, really quite reasonable. I'm not going to say the price because it could vary and stuff, but much cheaper than I'd have expected. It's there with the sort of the budget cameras. I would, as I said before, go with the 1.8mm lens. When you're going fast and you're having to angle up like this, when you're coming into land, a 2.1mm lens just doesn't cut it for me anymore. I'd prefer the 1.8. I'll deal with the distortion and go with a wider angle. Obviously that's very subjective and what you fly may differ. A couple of little nitpicks that could have done better. You saw that cable we had to connect. It was very stiff. It could have done with the nice soft silicone coated cable and that would have been much easier to work with. At the moment it's still all in there. I've just poked it down inside so I can still access the OSD menu if I want to change it. But on that subject, even though it's fairly low cost, it could have still done with having that OSD board. So for people that haven't set a camera up before and wouldn't have that board, they haven't got anything to change it with. That said, I don't think I changed a single setting, and out the box is actually quite good. But there's plenty of people I know that like to go in and deal with stuff and get it just set up just as they want to. But apart from that, no complaints at all. Brilliant little micro camera for a fringe. I like this quad now. I did not like it before, now I do because I can see where I'm going. So this is going to be my sort of test bed for swapping out cameras, for swapping out VTXs, because it's flying quite nicely now, so yay. Anyway, this hasn't been about this quad, this has been about this little camera. And I have to thank Banggood for supplying this for a review, and of course you can find links down below for where you can check this out in more detail. But I hope that's been helpful, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.